bless Texas. Wow, what a powerful 1-2 punch. Let me say, Judge Howard, if you weren't a preacher before, you've got a calling here in God's sanctuary. And if I had any sense to follow not one but two preachers, I'd just come up and say, thank you very much, y'all have a great evening. Let me tell you, Judge, when you were talking about battling the Philistines, it kind of reminded me of Washington.
Amen.
Amen.
You know, to use a different part of the scriptures, I was looking for the jawbone of an ass. And there are more than a few of them in Washington.
Yes.
And then I gotta say, when my dad got cooking, I was watching back there, and I noticed just as soon as he said that we're gonna beat back the Democrats in a red tsunami, as he said it, the lights turned from blue to red. I was feeling pretty inadequate because, unlike my dad, I didn't prepare the light show beforehand. What a blessing to be back in San Angelo. What a blessing, to be with patriots. And it is a great time to be a Texan. Then again, every day is a great time to be a Texan.
Oh, yeah.
We are at a time of choosing. We are at a fork in the road for our nation and a fork in the road for the state of Texas.
Yes.
And I would tell you, there is no race in the country with a starker divide, with a clearer contrast than the U.S. Senate race here in the state of Texas.
That's right.
The difference between my record and that of my opponent, Congressman Beto O'Rourke, is night and day.
Francis.
So let's get into some substance. Let's get into some specifics about what this race is all about. On taxes, I've been proud to work hand in hand with the president to pass the biggest tax cut of a generation. We cut taxes on small businesses. We cut taxes on farmers and ranchers. We doubled the child tax credit from $1,000 per child per year to $2,000 per child per year. That's real money in the pockets of hard-working Texas families. We doubled the exemption from the death tax, which means that 2/3 of the farms and ranches that would have had to pay the death tax are now totally exempt. So where's Beto O'Rourke on taxes? Well, he's for them. He voted against the tax cut. He voted against making your individual tax cuts permanent. And he has been very candid in saying he wants to raise your taxes. He thinks that he knows how to spend your money better than you and your family know how to do it.
Nope.
Before he was in Congress, he was in the El Paso City Council. He voted repeatedly for higher property taxes. He even voted for something called a rain tax, which I don't even know what that is. But here in Texas, we celebrate when it rains. We don't tax you for it. On regulations, I've been proud to work hand in hand with the president to repeal the job-killing regulations that were hammering the state of Texas, that were hammering oil and gas, that were hammering farmers and ranchers and ag. And the combination of repealing job-killing regulations and cutting taxes has resulted in the economy in Texas is booming. I'm reminded years ago, I was out in West Texas, and I said, what's the difference between regulators and locusts?
Not much.
And I said, well, the thing is, you can't use pesticide on the regulators. And this old West Texas farmer, he leaned forward, he said, want to bet?
Yeah.
So where's Beto on regulations? Well,
Regulate
he's
death.
for it. He wants to bring back the job-killing regulations of the Obama era, the regulations that hammered the state of Texas. Beto O'Rourke voted in favor of a $10 a barrel tax on every barrel of oil produced in the state of Texas. Now listen, that was a great vote if you're raising money in San Francisco. They'll pour you extra Chardonnay for that one. But that is a terrible vote if you actually care about jobs in the state of Texas. There are millions of jobs in Texas that depend either directly or indirectly on the energy industry. You've got all the folks working in energy, but every one of them, they go out and they buy cars and trucks. Well, actually, they just buy trucks. They buy houses, they get health care, they go to doctors, they give to their churches, they give to charities, they give to schools, they pay taxes which fund our police officers and our firefighters, and they generate hundreds of millions of dollars for our public universities. If you care about jobs in Texas, you want to see a thriving oil and gas industry, and you don't vote like Beto O'Rourke has to tax and regulate them today. Beto is a leading proponent of the Obama-Paris Climate Accord, which would have killed thousands of jobs across the state of Texas. I spent 45 minutes on Air Force One making the case to the president that we should pull out of the Paris deal, that it was bad for Texas and bad for jobs, and President Trump did the right thing and pulled us out. On health care, for 6 years I have been proud to lead the fight to repeal the train wreck, the disaster that is Obamacare.
Yes.
Obamacare has hurt millions of Texans. And the biggest way that it has is that it's caused health insurance premiums to skyrocket.
Yes.
I hear every day from Texans all over the state, I can't afford health insurance anymore. Now, our central objective, I believe, in repealing Obamacare should be to lower premiums. Now, how do you get lower premiums? Economics 101. If you want prices to go down, you want more choices, more competition, more options, more consumer freedom. What does Obamacare do? Fewer choices, less option, less competition, less freedom. That drives prices through the roof. So where's Beto on health care? Well, he's voted in favor of keeping Obamacare 67 times. But he's not happy with just doing that. He wants to do even more damage than that. He wants to move us to full-on socialized medicine. Put the federal government in charge of your health care and your doctor. Now let's see. Having a federal government bureaucrat decide when, how, and whether you or your family get health care.
No.
What possibly could go wrong with that?
How long do you got?
How about the Supreme Court? I have been proud to lead the fight to confirm Justice Neil Gorsuch. Justice Brett Kavanaugh. And for every one of us who cares about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, who cares about free speech and religious liberty, who cares about the Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms. And let me say, I'm always a little nervous when I bring that up in West Texas. I appreciate all of y'all restraining from pulling out your guns and shooting them in the air. Because we'd get in trouble if we put holes in the sanctuary ceiling. So thank you for that extraordinary restraint. For every one of us who cares about the 10th Amendment right for the federal government to leave us the hell alone. It is the courts that are at the crossroads between either upholding or tearing down those rights.
Yes.
And let me say, the behavior of Senate Democrats during the Kavanaugh confirmation hearings was one of the most shameful and saddest chapters in the history of the United States Senate.
Horrible.
We saw political theater. They had no interest in fairness, no interest in truth, no interest in actually finding out what happened. No interest in due process. They simply were willing to traffic in any and every uncorroborated allegation and go into the gutter in a desperate effort to smear Judge Kavanaugh and his family. And I got to say, I think millions of Americans turned on the TV and saw that partisan mudfest, and they said that doesn't belong in the U.S. Senate.
Exactly.
And let me say, for the record, I am not Spartacus. But you know, if Beto O'Rourke had been in the Senate, he'd have happily put on the toga and joined the Spartacus circus. How about Israel?
Yes.
For 6 years, I have been proud to be the leading defender of Israel in the United States Senate. And today, our embassy in Israel is in Jerusalem, the once and eternal capital of Israel.
Yes. Where it belongs.
I urged the president to move our embassy to Jerusalem, and the president made the bold and courageous decision to do so. And the day our embassy opened, I was there in Jerusalem for the opening of the embassy.
Cool.
So where's Beto on Israel? Well, bad news. He has the most anti-Israel record of any Democratic Senate nominee in the country. So let's talk specifics. 2014, Hamas is raining rockets down on Israel. Beto O'Rourke became one of only eight members of the House of Representatives to vote against funding Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system. Now, the Iron Dome was saving the lives of countless men, women, and children in Israel from those Hamas rockets. Virtually every Republican voted yes. Virtually every Democrat voted yes. Nancy Pelosi voted yes. Maxine Waters voted yes. Beto O'Rourke voted no. He would not stand with Israel. So how about immigration? There is no race in the country with a starker divide on immigration than the U.S. Senate race here in Texas. As for me, I'm incredibly honored to have received the formal endorsement of the National Border Patrol Council, the union of the men and women who risk their lives keeping us safe. Now, you know, the Border Patrol Council, they typically stay out of campaigns. They made an exception in this instance where the union presidents from every sector along the Rio Grande, they all came to McAllen and formally endorsed me because they said out of all 100 senators, the one who is consistently leading the fight to build the wall, to secure the border, to stand with Border Patrol is Ted. So where's Beto on immigration? Well, more bad news. Not only does he oppose a wall, but he says we have too many border walls and fences already, and we need to tear down the border walls we've already got.
No.
He supports sanctuary cities, and he opposes Kate's Law. I'm the author of Kate's Law in the United States Senate. Not only that, he has said he is, quote, open to. Now, these are his words, these are not mine. He is, quote, open to abolishing ICE.
No.
Now, when he got pressed on that, he doubled down. He said, well, maybe we shouldn't just abolish ICE. Maybe we should abolish the entire Department of Homeland Security. Now, listen, that is just radical. It's reckless. And it's not Texas. By the way, there's a joke that's making the rounds on Facebook. Y'all are familiar with this so-called caravan that is marching north through Mexico?
Yes.
Well, this is just a message to all the men and women in the caravan that when you get here, we have identified homes that are willing to take you in, to give you free housing, free food, free health care. And every one of these homes is helpfully self-identified with a little black and white sign that says Beto. And by the way, don't bother knocking, just kick the door in. They don't believe in walls, so just let yourself in and make yourself at home. And what's interesting about that joke is watching some leftists try to explain, well, no, that's not what we mean. Really, why is that? Wait, you mean they have to follow the laws? You mean you can't just burst your way in and intrude on someone else? You mean you can't cross illegally? You know, as Sonny Bono, remember when he was member of Congress, someone asked him, said, what's your view on illegal immigration? And he said, well, it's illegal, isn't it?
Exactly.
And Beto O'Rourke is the only Democratic Senate nominee in the country to explicitly come out for impeaching President Trump. And he has said he would vote yes today, right now, to impeach Donald Trump. So if you want to understand the stakes of this election, that lays it out crystal clear. There are two paths for America, two paths for Texas. Path number one, I'm going to call the alpha path. Path number one, we turn out common sense conservatives all across Texas, all across the country, and we hold the House and we grow our majority in the United States Senate. And then we come back in January and we cut taxes even further. We simplify the tax code even more. We repeal more job-killing regulations. We see millions of new jobs across Texas. We see wages going up. We see opportunity. We see prosperity. And we build the wall. And we confirm even more strong constitutionalist judges to the Supreme Court and the federal courts. Now there's a second path that I'm going to call the Beto path. That was a Greek joke there, sorry. The Beto path begins in January 2019 with Nancy Pelosi being sworn in as Speaker of the House. No! The day that Pelosi gets the Speaker's gavel, the House opens up impeachment proceedings on President Trump.
No!
That same day, the House opens up impeachment proceedings on Justice Brett Kavanaugh. That same day, the House launches a dozen different investigations into every federal agency, scores of subpoenas, all designed with one objective: to utterly paralyze and cripple the Trump administration, to end the Trump administration, to end all the positive and productive work we've done on reg reform, on repealing job-killing regulations, on rebuilding our military, on defeating our enemies, to all of that be consumed by a partisan bloodbath. It'd be like Mad Max at Thunderdome. And by the way, in this telling, Beto O'Rourke plays the role of Tina Turner. Now I want to ask you, is that partisan circus, is paralyzing the federal government and ending all the progress we've made, is that good for the people of Texas? No! Then that underscores the stakes of this election. We know that the hard left is angry, that they're filled with rage and many of them hatred for the president. We know that they're flooding the state of Texas with tens of millions of dollars from Hollywood liberals and liberals all over the country. And we know that we're going to see record-setting Democratic turnout next week. Now here's the good news. This is Texas. And in Texas, there are a whole lot more conservatives than there are liberals. This election is all about turnout. And we need, in particular, serious turnout in West Texas. I love West Texas. I love the common sense values that are here. But let me tell you, every liberal in the state's going to show up. How many of y'all know what Hippie Hollow is? So Hippie Hollow is a nude beach on Lake Travis in Austin.
Oh, gosh.
You ever notice that a nude beach, the wrong people always seem to go?
Oh.
I guarantee you, next Tuesday on Election Day, Hippie Hollow will be empty. Yep. As every one of those liberals will be down there voting, trying to turn Texas blue. We need West Texas to keep Texas on our core values.
Yes.
So I want to ask you to speak out for why low taxes and low regulation matters, why it matters to secure the border, why it matters to defend the Constitution. I want to ask you to contribute, to go to our website, tedcruz.org, and contribute so we have the resources to turn out common sense conservatives across the state. I want to ask you to volunteer to go and knock on doors and turn out your neighbors. And I want to ask each and every person here to vote. Yeah. How many of y'all have voted already? That is fantastic. For every hand that didn't go up, we're still in early voting right now. If you didn't raise your hand, I'm going to ask you to come out and vote tomorrow. Yeah. Don't put it off. Go and vote tomorrow. And then spend the rest of this next week between now and Election Day getting your friends, getting your family, getting your neighbors, getting your co-workers, getting your loved ones, getting everyone you know in the state of Texas to come out and vote too. I'm going to close with 2 words of encouragement. Number 1, this is the 39th town hall or rally we have done in the last 6 weeks all over the state of Texas.
Wow. Thank you.
Every single one of them, just about. At the end of it, people come up to me and they say, Ted, I'm a Democrat. I've been a Democrat my whole life, and I'm with you. And the reason is simple. Look, Texas for a long time has had millions of conservative Democrats, millions of moderate Democrats. And they're now seeing the national Democrats embrace radical and extreme positions. They're seeing the national Democrats go bat crap crazy. That, by the way, is a technical medical diagnosis. You find it in the medical dictionary under B. And so when Texas conservative Democrats see national Democrats like Beto O'Rourke calling for impeaching President Trump, or when they see national Democrats like Beto O'Rourke talking about abolishing ICE, those conservative and moderate Democrats, many of them are saying, you know what, there's no longer a home for me in that party.
Welcome.
And let me take a minute right now to speak to every conservative Democrat here and at home, to every moderate Democrat, to every independent, to every libertarian. Come join us. We welcome you with open arms. If you believe in low taxes, low regulations, and lots of jobs, if you want to defend the Constitution and Bill of Rights, then come be part of a common sense supermajority all across the state of Texas. And number two, we are going to win this race. Because this is Texas. And it is in our DNA, it is in our character to defend liberty. Nearly 2 centuries ago, when the citizens of Gonzales received a demand from General Santa Anna, hand over your guns and hand over the cannon that guards the city. The Texians and Gonzales responded with a battle cry that echoes through the ages. Come and take it! That is who Texas is. When liberty is threatened, we will rise to defend it. We will rise to defend the Constitution. And we will rise to defend the United States of America. Thank you, and God bless you.
Remember this.
There's the water tower. Sums up how some folks live.